For the entree today?
Here it comes.
Steady.
We have liver or fish?
I didn't hear you say that.
MASH's Trapper John, Wayne Rogers, today on Pop Goes the Culture. Hi, I'm David Levin, and welcome to another hedonistic edition of Pop Goes the Culture, the poor man's inside the actor's studio. Today, we continue our tribute to the beloved actor Wayne Rogers with the third part of our conversation, as he talks more about MASH, his other hit series House Calls, and the extraordinary step he took when it was canceled. We'll also talk about what happens when an actor flubs his lines on stage. Speaking about MASH, tell me about the period during which the end of that, was it the end of the fourth season, I guess? Or
yes, if you're guessing, I'm guessing too.
I guess it was, you were there for the fourth season, so I guess...
We can come back and loop that part too. We'll loop the whole season. Yes, okay, yes. Whatever season, yes.
It was the end of that season, and McLean's...
Oh, when McLean died.
When McLean died.
Yes.
Walk me through those last couple of weeks and what was going on with that, if you would.
Well, everybody seems to put some sort of weight on that. It didn't mean anything to me. It meant something to everybody else. Everybody's, they didn't tell the cast until afterward. Yeah, so what? I thought it was sort of a non-event. Once again, it's a question of taking it seriously. Oh, you asked me about Gene. Gene takes all that seriously. That's one thing about Gene. Yes, Gene takes all that very seriously. I don't take that so seriously. Characters come and go. I came and went. McLean came and went. Larry Linville came and went. McLean's real death, that I took seriously. But I spoke at his memorial, so that I took seriously. But the fact that whether McLean was going to come back or he died, I don't think it mattered. I mean, if you're an actor, you're an actor. Why withhold this from the cast? What's the big deal, But
what made you decide to leave at the end of that season?
I had a beef with the studio. I never had a signed contract. And as you know, in the movie business, you get a deal memorandum, and it's 5 or 6 pages. You show up on this stage, and then the contract comes after you finish the picture. And certainly in the movie business, and in television, if you don't last beyond the first season, it comes after that too. So you get the contract in the middle of the first, and it's about this thick, and it's, weighs 50 pounds or whatever it is. So your attorneys look at it, their attorneys look at it, and they go back and forth about all the small points. Well, there was just some things we couldn't agree on. And, for example, they had an old-fashioned morals clause. Do you know what that is?
Tell me.
Huh?
I know what it is.
Yeah, you do.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, in the days of 7-year contracts, they said, and the clause literally said, I can't quote this quite verbatim, but it was something to the effect of, if in the eyes of the studio you commit an act deemed to be immoral by whoever's running the studio, then they have the right to suspend you or dismiss you or whatever the consequences were. And those were in all of the old contracts at movie studios. I think brought on by Fatty Arbuckle or somebody like that at some point in time. So God forbid, I said, I don't think I want to sign that. And they said, why? I said, well, I don't think it's morally appropriate. My ethics don't think I should sign, and it's too general. It's not specific. If you want to go into all of the legal reasons, I tell you what, I said, I got an idea though. I'll sign it. I want everybody in the front office to sign it. Well, who do you think you are? Well, I got a better question. Who do they think they are? Why should I sign a morals clause and the guys running the studio don't sign a morals clause? Are they doing something immoral? I mean, God knows in today's corporate world, we know that there are a lot of people doing things immoral, and we know in politics people did things immoral all the time. Why should I be subjected to something that everybody else isn't subjected to? They said, well, the other people, the other actors. I'm not the other actors. There were things like that, and we could never agree. So I said, goodbye. I would love to have had a contract if the contract had said what the deal memorandum said, but, you know.
How'd you feel after you left? Did you watch the show anymore after that? Or?
This is going to be terrible. I never watched the show. I would go to the dailies. Alan and I would go to the dailies and to learn, to see if we told the jokes right or if we did it right, and even after a friend of mine who's a producer now, Paul Witt, who produced, good Lord, everything, yes. Paul said to me, he said, I remember I was on the lot and I'd see you and Alan on the sidewalk doing a scene. Now that's a scene we'd already shot and was in the can. Wasn't going to change. But we would go to the dailies and see something that we could have done to improve it, so we'd go out and do it for our own benefit.
Wow.
Now you won't find too many actors that are that crazy who are so interested in doing the work that they go back and do a scene that they'd already committed to see if they could do it better.
Most people stop rehearsing after they shoot.
Yes, yes.
So this is a good.
But I would go to the daily. So in answer to your question, did I see the shows? I rarely saw the shows, and I rarely see them now. Now I run across one every now and then, and my son said to me one day, he's now 37. He says to me, he flips over and he sees one of the shows and he looks at it and he looks up at me and he looks at it and he looks up at me, and he was very diplomatic. He didn't say, Dad, you look old. He said, Dad, you look different now. I thought that was very kind.
I don't think you look that different.
Really?
No, really.
Well, maybe I'll go out and get my entire body capped here. And,
the only thing that I noticed that was really different is your hair's not curly.
Yes.
That's
it's gotten a little thinner, too.
Mine also.
Yes,
okay,
yes. So it doesn't curl as much. No, but those, as I said, coming back to why I originally got into this business, the rehearsal process, the process is what interested me, fascinates me, yeah.
That was a great show, though. It was a great show. So you didn't even watch the last episode or any of that?
No, I don't remember watching them. Every now and then today I'll look at it, but it's because I'm flipping around looking at something else and I'll see one and I'll say, oh, that looks familiar, I remember that. And I look at it almost objectively. I think, gee, those two guys are not bad. Alan and I, as a matter of fact, we went, they had some shindig here, to honor us for something. I don't remember what. And they showed 2 or 3, and I hadn't seen them in years. A long time, I don't remember. And I looked at it, and he looked at it the same way. We both said, we weren't too bad, were we? That's pretty good, that stuff. But you're looking at it as if you're looking at somebody else. It's not you. So that guy was pretty good, But I think a lot of that came down to the way we rehearsed. Somebody said, you always thought we made that stuff up. I said, no, we worked very hard to make it look like we.
Amazing. Excuse me one second. Excuse me. You get a tickle in your throat and you're like, oh.
Oh, yes. Think what happens when you're on stage.
I can't even.
You gag, you spit, you do everything else, and of course everybody else thinks you're up. So they start feeding you the lines again, I told Alan. Alan told me during Glengarry, he thought the other guy was up. As it turns out, he said it was him. He was so sure he was right, and he left. He exited and realized all of a sudden it was him that would miss the line. I said, your character, certainly in Mammoth, I've got a tip for you that'll help you. He said, what's that? I said, when you're up and you want to get back to it, pretend like you didn't hear it and ask them to run it by you again. And I said, that happened to me. I'm doing a play called Catch Me If You Can. I'm in Chicago. And all of a sudden, it was a point. This character I played is a little like Columbo. He was a detective, and he was fumbling around. And so at one point during the play, I'm overlooking at a bookcase full of books. While there are 3 other actors, and they are playing a scene over here, and I'm not supposed to. And all of a sudden, I hear dead silence. And I look over, and I think, oh my God, I'm in a play. I'm on stage somewhere. I don't know where I am. I don't know what I'm doing here. I had drifted off totally. I began to think about my kids while I was up there. I thought, oh. And the silence continues, and I said, I don't think I heard you right. Why would you all say that again? And of course they picked it up and they said it again. They knew I was up, you know, and I said, I wasn't sure. I think, yeah, now I understand what you're saying. And then I went right on. It was okay. So I said to Alan, certainly in Mammoth that works. You know, you can get away with, wait, what? What are you talking about here? You know, I don't know.
Yeah. Did he say he would use it?
I don't know, because he doesn't want to be up. I think he's really saying I don't ever want to find myself in that position, you know. He said when he did this, he didn't know he was up. He thought it was the other guy. That's even better.
That's a tough show. They had 3.5 weeks of rehearsals.
That's it.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I did, if you'll believe this, I did, not Miss Alliance. I did Miss Alliance with a 1.5 week rehearsal. I did, what was that, with, what's her name, from Upstairs, Downstairs. She's a wonderful actress. Jean Smart. Not Jean Smart. Jean, yes. And I did, God, what am I thinking? It was, well, it'll come to me, a Russian. Who always wants to go to Moscow in those plays?
From Chekhov?
Chekhov. Yeah. It was Chekhov. It was, what am I thinking about? About the...
not Uncle Vanya?
Not, yes, it was Vanya. Excuse me. Thank you.
I knew it was Uncle Vanya.
Thank you. Very good. Yes, it was Vanya. I'm doing Vanya, and I had actually 2 weeks rehearsal. But I had a problem with my throat. I had to get a growth cut off my throat. So I got there, and I only had 1 week of rehearsal. And there is a part in there, I played the, I can't remember his name now. Russian. And there is a long, maybe a page of dialogue of this description of what he wants to do with the forest, how he wants to, and it's really a subterfuge because he's romancing her. So I had, because I could not get through that particular piece, I'd written this all down on this map that I use. Now, opening night, I unfold the map, unroll the map, and I begin to show her all of the things that I'm doing, and I have written all of this out on the map, so I'm secure. Problem was, I wrote it out with my glasses on. I'm not wearing glasses as this character in the play, so I roll out this map, and I see gibberish, just gibberish. And she says, well, what do you intend to do, Count, or whatever my name was? And I said, I'm going to thump for a lot here. That's all I know. I'm going to thump. I made up something. I don't remember. We got off stage, and Jean, whatever. Isn't that awful? Yeah, she was wonderful. She turns to me. She says, is that Chekhov? I said, no. Did it sound Chekhovian to you? She said, some of it sounded pretty good. I said, well, I was making up all of that. I don't know. Oh, those are terrible moments. But you have to do.
Somebody was telling me a story. He was in Pippin, and he got up on stage, and it was his first time on stage, and he started singing all the lyrics. All the music was right, but the lyrics were wrong. And funny?
That's wonderful.
But they all rhymed.
They made a rhyme.
He said, I wish I knew what I sang because they were never written anywhere. He said they were pretty good.
Yes.
Let's talk about house calls
Uh-huh.
a little bit. Tell me about that. What was that like?
I loved house calls. They had made a pilot with another actor. And so the network called and said, would you do this? And I said, once again, let me read, let me see what you did before, And so given a few changes, I said yes. And I just had a great time doing that. I really enjoyed that. And I thought she was wonderful. Redgrave, Lynn. I think Lynn is also a terrific actress. And we had a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it sort of came apart at the seams. She, was having a baby at that time and was insistent on having certain things on the set for the baby and this and that and the other. And the studio wouldn't agree to that. And I don't know whether this was a subterfuge for her getting money or not. At one point, I said to her, I'm happy to intervene if I can to do something if you want me to. And she was then being managed by her husband, who I understand they are no longer together. And he was her manager, and she said, no, John is going to take care of all of that and this, that, and the other. And whatever happened, it blew up, and she left. That's not to say that Sharon Glass, who came in, was not good. She was good, just different. But I think that all kind of hurt the ratings, and once again, I think we had a sort of a rapport that percolated up through the. She was very gifted, Lynn, with language, so we could do things. We even incorporated tongue twisters. Between us, we would say in a scene or something. I don't remember what they were, but certain tongue twisters would come up. There would be something, the dialogue would do that, and that would set us off. So we just worked it into the scene as like people do who would have fun with it. And she was wonderful at that. I was sad to see that go. I really enjoyed that. Ray Bucktanika and we just had a good time. And we did some good work there too. I think some funny things. We did a show once about, which is in the very controversial now in the California as also in other states, about the use of marijuana for medical purposes. And David Wayne, who was in the show, was a very gifted actor, as you know, played a kind of in the movie House Calls, he was crazy. And we did not make him crazy, because you said if you can't have a guy actually operating on people who's crazy. But he was eccentric. So he was growing marijuana in the hospital, in pots for his patients. And so we did this show about that and wrote a whole script about it, and it was hysterical. And not only was it funny, but we took a serious subject, and once again, same kind of premise as MASH, take a serious subject and turn that coin over. And that won, 2 or 3 awards. So I was very happy with that. We did another one once that I wrote about I'd had this experience. Everybody talks about it was called Institutional Food. That was the title of the script, and everybody always talks about how horrible hospital food is, and this and that and the other. And since we were in the hospital, I used that. And the head chef was Mexican, but he didn't have a green card, and so they were going to deport him. And that was the problem of the show. And how do we and so we got around it. I adopted him as my son, and that made him legal. That was the way I solved that in the script. So I had a lot of fun writing that, and then we had a lot of fun doing that too. And then we did a takeoff on Gordon Liddy in that. I don't know that was also a funny. The actor who did that was just wonderful, and we literally lifted some of those things. He's a guy who gets into the hospital who thinks that one of the patients in the hospital is a spy, and he's coming there to interrogate him, but he doesn't want us to know that he's an agent who's interrogating him. And perfect premise for a Liddy type. And at one point he says to me, he says, "You think I'm crazy, don't you?" I said, "No, I didn't say that." He said, "You think I have fear and that I'm afraid of you." I said, "No, I didn't say that." He said, "Well, watch this." He said, "That's an autoclave, isn't it?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Look." And he sticks his hand in the autoclave, of course. And you see the hand go in, and you see his face on the camera, and up through the frame comes steam. and then you see, he says, "See?" And then up comes the hand. Of course, it's just beet red. We've painted this hand, with mercurochrome, and he's fried his hand, of course, in the autoclave, And he says, "Do you think that hurts?" "No." And with that, he turns and leaves. And as he goes, he has to open the door. So you hear the following, where he's turned the knob with this beet red hand, that he's fried. But we did a lot of, we took serious subjects again and made them funny, And I thought I enjoyed that. I enjoy taking those things that you can send up that you think in the society are otherwise, there's something unbalanced here, and you can make that absurd and make fun of it.
What a great opportunity for you
Yes.
to be able to do stuff like that.
Yes. Oh, I loved it. I just loved it. And I thought that's what we did on Maze. That's why I was so disappointed. And he canceled. House calls in that day was in 11th. We had dropped from 4th or 5th in the ratings to 11.
How dare you?
And they canceled it. I'll never forgive him for that. In fact, I wrote a letter to who the head of the network was then Gene Jankowski in New York, and old man Bill Paley. And I wrote Paley a letter, and I got a call. "Paley would like to see you. When are you going to be in New York?" And I said, "I'll be in New York next week if he's serious." And they said, "Fine." And I flew in, and I had lunch with him and Jankowski in their little private dining room up. And he said, and he was right. He said, I'm not going to put it back on the air. He said, "I know Rosenthal, is it, who writes for the LA Times? Yeah, I think it is, wrote a whole article about this and said, this is crazy. I mean, you die to get something in the top 20. He canceled the show. And he said, we have a head of programming, and it's his decision, and I either have to replace him because he's made a bad decision. So I can't, I'm not going to put it back on the air just because you're writing me letters. Well, he was right, but I was very disappointed, because we had a lot of fun doing that. And I think we did some good shows, too.
But you got lunch with Bill Paley, so that's not a bad thing.
And Gene Jankowski, who's still around, yes. Yes.
That's all we've got time for now. Be here for part 4 of my talk with Wayne Rogers. We'll talk about how he stood in for Larry Hagman as Anthony Nelson in the I Dream of Jeannie reunion movie, and the truth about costumes on MASH. It's pretty grimy. I'm David Levin. See you then, and don't forget to subscribe. Ouch! Oh.